In Minneapolis tonight, no doubt he will be mentioning the markets and possibly a trade deal that might be going his way. Could I hedge that enough? Now, any deal, even a partial deal, would go a long way toward improving things for trade-stung states like Minnesota, to say nothing of nearby Michigan and Wisconsin, even Pennsylvania, that could all surely use the boost. Market Watch's Rebecca Walser is here, Dave Dodson, and last but not least, Axios reporter Stef Kight. Stef, let me get your sense of the importance of this presidential trip tonight to Minneapolis. It's a state he barely lost. I think about a point and a half. Anything could happen. So it's crucial, right?
Absolutely. And we're heading into 2020 and we're seeing Trump pick up these rallies and these talks to different states and areas that are going to be crucial to his reelection in 2020. And of course, this comes while he's gearing up for talks with China to discuss the trade deal there. And we're seeing manufacturing slowing. There's a lot going on. The economy doesn't seem to be in quite the place that maybe the Trump campaign would ideally want to be seeing heading into 2020, with a few signs that are worrying to people, even like Neil Bradley, who told Axios that the slowing in manufacturing is concerning, especially because oftentimes we see that first in manufacturing and then it spreads. So there are a lot of big issues that Trump is needing to address, issues that he promised to deal with in 2016, and now he's going to need to prove to voters in a lot of these crucial states that he is going to keep those promises, that he is keeping those promises, and that he still plans to carry through on these things in 2020.
By the way, we're watching, as you're speaking there, Steph, a crowd's gathering for the president tonight in an arena that can pack 20,000. But this gives you an idea of the pent-up demand to hear and see the president. This is hours before he's even slated to speak. He hasn't even left the White House yet. The read on that from Professor Dave Dodson. You know, Dave, we always talk about expectations versus reality. Expectations are that the two sides will score some sort of a deal. Question is when, but does it really move the needle? If we can avoid, throwing tariffs at each other and worse, that might be fine. What do you think?
I think there will be a deal, because here's the thing. The president is going to be back on The Apprentice if he doesn't get a trade deal with China. But here's our problem, is that China knows that. They understand that. And we look at the electoral map from 2016, and it looks like a landslide. But as it was just pointed out, some of those states were razor-thin margins. In fact, you could not fill the University of Michigan Stadium with this margin of victory from Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, and Minnesota. Or, excuse me, Pennsylvania. That's how close those victories were.
That's true.
But he can't do that game. He can't do that game plan again, because in 2016, he was masterful at focusing on a few states and getting people to turn out. But that won't happen in 2020, because the Democrats are crazed. They'll vote for Winnie the Pooh if that'll keep Trump out of the White House. Meanwhile, look what's happening to his base. Your own news network reported that I think it was something like 10 or 15% of Republicans are for impeachment and removal. So he's had a real deterioration in his base. He needs every farmer and he needs every welder in those states to show up, and that's not going to happen without a trade deal.
It is important, Rebecca. I'm wondering for the markets if it's that important. I always hear the old accent, well, better to have some deal than no deal. They just want that uncertainty out of the way. I wonder, given all this time, if they're going to be a little bit more picky than that. But what do you think?
No, I think we need a real deal, right? We don't need a sugar high that's not going to last. We need an actual real deal. And the timing of this isn't great, because with the impeachment talk, it emboldens China to think that they might be able to outlast him. So I think the timing is off for a real deal here. I'm glad to see that they're going to meet tomorrow. That's great. But still, I do think China really wants to outlast this president. And with the impeachment talk, that's not going to happen. I do agree that we need some resolution for the farmers and for manufacturing jobs in the Rust Belt states and all these states that really were so marginal to go for Trump in the first place. And this is the sixth closest state that he's at tonight that Hillary won by, like he said, such a small margin. So he has an opportunity. And I would just counter his point and say, as many as Democrats are against Trump, there are a lot of people that maybe weren't Republicans that are for the rule of law and for due process and don't like what the Democrats are pulling with this impeachment.
Speaking of which, Steph, we're learning right now that House Democrats have subpoenaed the Energy Secretary Rick Perry for documents related to this Ukrainian state-owned energy company. That follows on the heels of other developments where Democrats are moving very, very quickly to keep the impeachment momentum going. This is a wild card development, I guess. I mean, no matter what happens on trade, it's always out there, right?
Yeah, and we're certainly seeing Democrats move quickly on this impeachment stuff. When I've been talking with people on the Hill, Democrats on the Hill, they all tell me they want to get this done as quickly as possible. They're moving forward. They're looking at every possible strain of the story. They're trying to subpoena as many people as possible who would have information about what went on between Trump and Ukraine and what those phone calls involved. And they're moving quickly and hoping to get this done by the end of the year, while also trying to get something done in Congress as well. I've spoken to people saying that they still want to get the USMCA deal done on top of the impeachment issues. And politically, this is risky for Democrats as well. There are some Democrats who, especially those in red districts, who are nervous as well.
Sorry to jump on you there, guys, with all this breaking news, including these developments on Rick Perry and subpoena documents from him. We are on top